This guy, he's got good hair. He knows how to write about basketball. He loves some Ricky Rubio. Chris Mannix, what do you got, buddy?
The inmates are running the asylum.
This is like the first time. This is like the first time you hosted. I remember you're all over the place. We're having a good time, but Chris Mannix of Sports Illustrated joining us. Chris,
well, no, probably the first time I hosted, I distinctly remember throwing to break during the hard break about 90 seconds too early.
Yeah. I remember that.
That was awesome. This long pause, and then the seating behind the glass kind of looking at me like, dude, you've got like 65 more seconds here.
Hey, so what else are you thinking for the next 90 seconds?
So how's Rubio looking?
Yeah.
Chris,
my favorite recipes, maybe? I don't know.
We got a lot to get to, but thanks for calling in. Now, a couple questions. Now, yesterday, Gregg Popovich sat his starters again. This is getting to become almost a non-story. A couple years ago, he was fined by the NBA $250,000 because he rested his starters and said they were completely healthy. Has he mastered the craft of bypassing this unwritten rule and resting starters when he wants?
I mean, this is just awesome, guys. I mean, what he does on a consistent basis, showing just no interest in catering to television partners that just ponied up $2.7 billion per year to televise these games. I mean, look, it's not like the Spurs were going through a particularly rough stretch. They were playing a back-to-back, but they were playing in Houston. I mean, what's that, like a 25-minute flight from San Antonio? They don't have another game until Saturday. Granted, they do go on, I think, a 4 or 5 game road trip, play 6 of their next 8 on the road. But this is a nationally televised game against the team in Houston that is considered right now, being undefeated, a legitimate contender. So I get a good laugh out of it, but I can understand the NBA's reaction being a little bit ticked off that Pop would do this so early in the season, but he just doesn't care. He's going to do what he's going to do, and nobody's going to stop him.
But Adam Silver's the new NBA commissioner. He's been pretty proactive in his first year on the job. Do you expect any reaction from him, and is there anything he can actually do about this?
I wouldn't be surprised if not Adam Silver, Rod Thorne, or somebody in the league office making a phone call saying, one of those dude, come on type of deals. But there's nothing they can do about it. I mean, the Spurs are the defending champs. They've been to the finals 2 straight years. They are, in every shape of the word, a dynasty over the last 15. They have the right to do whatever they want. And if they believe this is going to help them win in the long term, there is absolutely nothing the NBA can do about it.
Bigger picture on this, I heard Mark Cuban tweet about this. A few other people commented saying the 82-game season, it's as tight as it can be time-wise. It caused a lot of back-to-back games. Is there any possibility the season is shortened, and what options would they have?
No, this is a frequent topic of conversation over the last couple of years. I think it really started in the 2011 lockout because a lot of fans loved that 66-game season. They loved a season that started at Christmas, had games every other night, and every game seemed to be relevant. They didn't see the need to start late October the way the NBA does. But here's the thing. If you want to have a shorter season, you got to give some money back. The players can't make as much money. Owners won't make as much money. And the last time I've seen owners or players give back money will be the first time that I see that. So I think it's nice to theorize about and contemplate, but I don't think we'll ever see it because of how much money would need to be sacrificed by a lot of rich people.
Chris, it's McLovin. I was just reading the SI
Dude, stop
preview.
texting me, by the way. Before I come on the show,
like he doesn't recognize your voice?
Hey, Chris, it's Andrew Perloff, SI colleague. I seem to remember reading...
You don't work for us anymore?
I seem to remember reading that the Rockets were going to struggle defensively, and I woke up this morning, and as I always do, check the team stats. They're number 2 in the NBA in defense. Explain.
Look, first of all, for some context for listeners out there, like 5 minutes before I come on the show, he's texting me this flurry of preemptive text about what he's going to talk about. Like I'm not going to be prepared to talk about the Rockets or something. But Houston, they're good, Perloff. They're a good team right now. But look at who they've played. The only team that is good, they played 2 playoff teams, one of which was San Antonio last night, which was without any of its good players, at least 2 of its top good players. And the other team was Miami. Let's see what they do against some of the better teams. I'll tell you this much. Let's talk on Monday. Talk to me on Monday after they play Golden State on Saturday. The Warriors are a legitimate contender this year. I mean, defensively, they're great. Offensively, they've been better under Steve Kerr than they were Mark Jackson. If the Rockets beat the Warriors on Saturday, then we can have a legit conversation about where the Rockets are right now. But don't talk to me about beating banged-up Oklahoma City or Boston or the Lakers. Beat someone good first, then we'll have that talk.
Chris, I'm looking at the schedule. They've beaten the greatest franchises in NBA history: the Lakers, the Jazz, the Celtics, the Sixers. They beat the Heat, who were just in the finals, the defending champions. Who do you want them to beat?
Honestly, if the Sixers were winning that game, Perloff, if the Sixers were winning that game in the fourth quarter, they would have forfeited with 5 minutes left so they wouldn't pick up a win. I mean, that schedule, it's just bad right now. It's not their fault. They don't schedule these games. They play who's in front of them, as that cliche goes. But this team's got to beat some real teams before I start thinking of them as a real contender.
Is it possible that Dwight Howard's a little bit underrated, that maybe he is going to be the real deal there?
I don't know if Dwight can ever be considered underrated at this point. He's a 4-time Defensive Player of the Year, whatever it is. He's a great defensive player, an offensive player who can be dominant, but albeit limited in terms of what he can do with his post moves. He is what he is at this point. He's pretty much a formed product at this stage of his career. I think what Dwight needs to do this year, and what this year could really help him with, is proving he can carry a team. Now, he did in Orlando. He took one of the worst finals teams in recent memory all the way to that last series against the Lakers. But if he can do it with James Harden this year, I think it will go a long way towards changing the perception about Dwight Howard.
Chris Mannix of Sports Illustrated joining us on the Dan Patrick Show. Chris, a couple more questions before we go. Meta World Peace, Ron Artest was on the show yesterday, and he had an odd comment about LeBron James and Carmelo Anthony. He said them losing weight was a bad idea because they don't have the stamina and energy they had. Usually you think that losing weight would help you with that, but his case was they're not as strong as they used to be. They can't weather the storm of a beating during a game, even though it's early in the season. Does he have a point, and do you know why LeBron James lost the weight?
Well, I think why he lost weight, because he's going to be 30 in December and wants to make sure that he's in the best possible shape as he enters the latter stage of his career. I mean, we saw Kobe in a lot of ways reinvent himself after he turned 30, become more of a post player, try to become more efficient, albeit that's not really showcasing itself this year. But I think he wanted to transform himself a little bit and make sure he was in the best shape possible for the next 4 or 5 years of his career. Now, it could still work out. I mean, there's no reason at this point to push the panic button on the Cavaliers no matter what's happening. But where I agree with Meta there is that we're not seeing LeBron go to the post quite as much, and maybe that does have something to do with the weight loss. As a bigger player, he can bang bodies a little more. He can absorb contact a little more. He doesn't feel those bumps and bruises. Maybe that's played a role in how LeBron's changed this year. But right now, you can't make any judgment on LeBron on the Cavaliers until at least Christmas. Let's see what they do up until Christmas time. If they still look like the same team, then we can have a conversation about trading Dion Waiters or benching Kyrie Irving and doing a whole bunch of things with that team. But for right now, this team needs to work its problems out on the court, and that's just going to take time.
Chicago Bulls are obviously a contender to win the title, win the East at the very least. Derrick Rose, ankle injuries, they seem to be minor, but with him, nothing you consider minor. Do you ever expect to see him back on the court in the same fashion he was 4 years ago? And should they make plans to not have him for the long term?
No, I think we'll see something close to the old Derrick Rose, if not the old Derrick Rose. I mean, this guy's in his mid-20s, and he has just had a horrific run of bad luck over the last 2 years. But everything I saw with USA Basketball last summer suggested that he was, at the very least, back physically. His explosion was there. He's dunking off 2 feet. He didn't look at all reluctant to play off either one of those injured knees. The rust is going to come, and obviously ankle sprains are just a part of basketball. But I believe fully that if Derrick Rose can get his skills back, and that again is the thing that's going to take some time, this is a guy that can absolutely be in the conversation for MVP again, maybe as soon as this year. We see the Eastern Conference isn't as strong perhaps as we thought it was going to be at the start of the season with Cleveland's early struggles. Toronto hasn't been as great maybe as I thought they were going to be. Obviously, Washington's pretty good, and some other teams are pretty good. But I think that Derrick Rose can be in that MVP mix this year and certainly beyond in the next couple of years.
Now, Chris, everyone knows Chris Mannix for Sports Illustrated. He's hosted the show. He's been on a lot. If you want to read his stuff, you can go to sportsillustrated.com. If you want to see the videos he does, you can go to sportsillustrated.com. There's a great one on the NBA tab on sportsillustrated.com. You're sitting there with your good friend Ricky Rubio, one of the best point guards in the NBA, and it's a great video. One of the things that video reminded me of, it reminded me of Chris Farley when he used to do those bits on Saturday Night Live when he was standing there with like Paul McCartney, and he's all smiley.
Remember when you had that assist?
That was awesome.
I kept it professional. I kept it professional with Ricky. I sat there, asked him the pointed questions. Really, my original questions, guys, were this. I actually have them written down. I'm looking at them.
Who does
right
your hair?
now. It's like, Ricky, here's the first question. Ricky, would you describe yourself as awesome or really awesome?
Yeah.
Ricky, question two. Ricky, a lot of great point guards in the NBA. You're obviously number one. Who's number two?
But the look on your face standing next to Ruby, you look like my 9-year-old niece standing next to one of the guys in One Direction.
Well, you were just blushing the whole time, which was like, get it together, guy.
We may have had to do 3 or 4 takes, but I think that the color in my skin was back to the usual pastiness.
All right, serious question. Give me. Did you get his number? Did you get his digits?
I did not. No. We may be Twitter buddies though now.
Man, you're getting there.
Could be some DMing going on at some point.
Oh man, that's right. Chris, thanks for calling in. It's good to have you. I'm sure we'll talk to you next week.
Great job, guys. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, buddy. Chris Mannix, low on sleep, high on energy. Good to have him on the Dan Patrick Show.